Welcome into the OBR streaming network. It is finally game day. This is your pregame show. Browns Cowboys kicking off in just about exactly an hour. I have an esteemed panel of OBR staff with me right now. Michael Keefe is trying to join us and will be with us here momentarily to take over hosting duty. But for the moment, my name is Brad Ward. The man next to me is the legend, the one and only Fred Greetham. Follow him on Twitter at Fred Greetham9. Below me, Pete Smith, always fantastic at _ Pete Smith _. And of course, Game Day Case at Casey _ Kinnaman on Twitter. How we doing, guys? Big game here in about an hour. We've been waiting a long time for this. Let's dig into first kind of the hot topic right now. News of the day, your inactive list, and Jack Conklin, along with Jedrick Wills, both inactive. So it will be James Hudson taking over at left tackle. We would assume for the majority of the day. Me and Case had this out on the air the other night, but let's kind of go around and get your thoughts on that and any other moves as far as Mike Ford, Jalen Darden, and it looks like Affetti is active as the backup left tackle today. Which you never know could come into play. So let's go to Fred. What's going on, Fred? You're in Berea, I take it, and or in Cleveland. Where are you, Fred?
I am not in Berea. I'm at the
Okay.
stadium. This is
Yes.
the mural in the press box. I found a spot kind of in the middle of everybody. But no, I mean, it's pretty packed here in the press box today. I was joking with some of the guys. There's the silver lining when you have a lousy team is every game's at 1 o'clock and nobody comes to the games. At games like this, everybody's at every seat and you have no elbow room. But we're here. We're ready to go. Got here early because of the crowd downtown and so. But yeah, it's and talking to the players this week, I think there's much more of a buzz with the team than maybe with the fans. I think the fans are kind of taking a let's see how it goes. The players are very confident and they're ready to go. I mean, they announced James Hudson's going to be the starter, so it's not a surprise. I think they were holding out hope that Conklin be ready to go, but maybe next week. But it's going to be the James Hudson show. Probably give him some help. They only have 2 tight ends active, David Njoku and Jordan Akins. I guess a lot of us thought maybe they'd bring up somebody from the practice squad to help out, but we'll see what happens here today. Obviously, Dak Prescott got the big contract, so we'll see if that lights him up or maybe slows him down. Who knows?
What's going on, Case Dog? Thoughts on the inactives today? It's going to be Hudson and Affetti backing him up. Thoughts on that and their plan for left tackle today?
Well, it's all hands on deck. I think that the approach doesn't really change much. Even if it would have been Jack, you're still going to have to send help over that way. Mike is a game wrecker, so you got to mitigate that however you can. And like Fred said, there's only 2 tight ends, so David Njoku might be playing left tackle before we know it. He's going to be in for a lot of these. He's probably looking at more dump-offs than anything. Deonta Foreman's a guy I would send out that way, as well as maybe Nick Harris in certain situations. So
yeah,
it's going to be all hands on deck, though. I mean, Micah can take over a game, so they just got to mitigate it any way they can, play their quick game. I think the Cowboys are in a similar situation with a rookie left tackle blocking Miles. For me, this comes down to whichever secondary tackles the best today. If you can just keep them short of the sticks and keep this a field position game, I think that's how it's going to at least start off in the early going.
Yeah, that's interesting. Certainly, secondary coming up to play the run is going to play a big part in this. Pete, what's going on, brother? And James Hudson going to start. What are your thoughts on the Browns' plan today at left tackle?
Well, I mean, the good news, if there is good news, is they've had to deal with this before, where they've had 2 poor tackles, so they've got experience trying to mitigate it. Now, obviously, your big concern is the running game, and they can do some things to sort of deal with that. But pass protection-wise, they've got answers. They've shown it last year, which is the biggest thing they like to do, particularly off of play action. Some of the other concepts was to shift the line one way to take out one of their ends, whether it's DeMarcus Lawrence or Marcus Parsons. In this case, they're both phenomenal. And then pull somebody going the other way to try to widen out those ends and try to isolate the interior guys. The Browns have to feel at least reasonably confident in Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller and Ethan Posick. So if you can widen out one end and sort of kick out with the other, that gives you some opportunity. And the other thing they've done is I expect the Browns are going to try to use personnel to sort of challenge the Cowboys. The Cowboys like to play a lot of under Mike Zimmer. I should say Mike Zimmer likes to play a lot of base, a lot of 3 linebacker sets. I'm curious if the Browns play a lot of their receivers, as they've been suggesting they would all year, and do things like put Cedric Tillman in a tight look, have him chip or release, some of those type of things. They can do it with Akins. They can do it with the running backs as well. But try to see if they can get the Cowboys to play smaller, or if they're going to keep their linebackers on the field, take advantage of them in space. Either way, ultimately, the ball has to come out of Deshaun Watson's hands quickly. That's going to be the name of the game. I think that's going to apply for both teams, but particularly in this situation, the biggest thing you have to avoid if you're the Browns or anyone is turnovers. And that's been hammered in, I expect, all this summer, all this for preparation for this game. Get the ball out, live to play another down, trust your defense.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a big part of this is going to be, they've got to stay ahead of the sticks. They've got to stay in neutral situations. If you can the more you can keep their pass rushers, their edge rushers, especially Micah Parsons, in run-pass conflict, the better off you're going to be with your plan, whatever plan they have. You guys, Casey mentioned Nick Harris. Pete, you talked about it the other night. We may see some Nick Harris today to help out with that stuff. But, third and obvious pass, second and longs. These are situations that could lead to turnovers where you're going to have to be more careful. Looking at Zimmer's scheme, he does a lot of the double A gap stuff. I think that they're going to try to use Parsons up the middle too in that A gap at times. So you may see Marshawn Kneeland or I forget the other guy's name, their other edge, coming off and moving Parsons around the line of scrimmage. So you got to know where he is at all times. You've got to send 2 bodies to him. You've got to adjust like Pete was talking about, shift your protection. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him coming up those A gaps as well a lot in this game. I'll let Jack talk on the left tackle situation, and Mike is here as well, so Mike can kind of take over and go from there. So
David Njoku, chip block every time. That will just be the default. It's a shame to use him that way, but you effectively just need an extra body. It's the start of the season. We're actually blessed the position we're going to be in when these guys are healthy, because most teams don't have 2 good tackles. We're at a point where we've got 3 that can do at least an average job. So I think we'll be good. Yeah, it could be a bit frustrating today, but as they've said, it's not like these injuries have just happened. They've had all pre-season to work and be ready for this. So I'm fairly relaxed. At the end of the day, get the ball out quick, get it moving. Will Watson change that style? Because we saw Joe Flacco was able to do it. Just get that ball out. And if he does that, happy days. It's still a win.
What's going on? Listen, I know we got that news, everybody, and I'm sorry I was a couple minutes late. My computer decided, I don't really want to start up. I know we got that news late. I know people are freaking out a little bit, but we're not starting this on any kind of down note. And Jack, you just hit it on a little positive note. We're not starting this on a down note. James Hudson's here for a reason. He's not just a guy off the street. James Hudson is here for a reason, and we got to have a little faith that this guy's going to step up and play a good game as a Cleveland Brown. That's what we got to do here week 1, stepping in. So listen, yeah, it stinks to be without Wills or Conklin. I don't know that everybody saw that coming, but we got Hudson coming in. we got Big Thanos on the other side, and this offensive line better be ready to roll because it is game day, finally. Fred, you're down there at the stadium. You talked about how it's a little bit crowded down there. Have you heard anything from the team when it comes to just the preparedness, how everybody's feeling? We know the health on the offensive line, a little bit of a question, but Fred, down there at the stadium, health looking good everywhere else?
Yeah, getting a sense this week with the team. It's a veteran team. They were very confident, overconfident or not, cocky, but just a very calm spirit, ready to go. They feel like they're prepared. They're ready for this. I mean, we've talked about not having the two tackles, but they really are as healthy as they've been all year. And, on the offensive side, they have everybody but those two tackles. Defense is the big area. They got everybody back. Jim Schwartz talked about how big of an issue that is. And you got a veteran group. You saw Miles and Grant Delpit were over in the Muni lot, with the fans before the game. And, they're loose, but they're a confident bunch. And I really think that they're ready to kick it off and get things going. I mean, this is what you play for. National game. I'm sitting here. Tom Brady walks by. He's got his game face on. He looks like he's going to play a game, as serious as he's acting. But, this is the season. It's time to step up and go. And I think with the home crowd today, I think they'll play well.
All right, boys. So let's talk about a little bit of matchups here, and let's talk about the other big news that hit, not for the Browns, but for the Cowboys today. They announced they make Dak Prescott the highest paid player in NFL history with the extension that they give him. So Dak Prescott is coming out with a whole new bag for the Dallas Cowboys. We talked about, and Fred, I know you got stuff you got to do, so if you got to run there, you let us know.
Yeah, I'm going to take off. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Yeah,
See
make sure you're following. Yeah, follow
Thanks,
Fred
Fred
throughout the course of the game at FredGritham9 on Twitter. He'll get you some updates as the game goes along. But let's talk about the matchups here, and let's talk about what we got going on, which is the Cleveland Browns defensively. You just heard Fred talking about it. They are amped up. They're ready to go. You got Myles Garrett with Donovan Mitchell out there in the Muni lot. And when you look at this Dallas Cowboys offense, you look at a team that last year was able to put up a ton of points. They were really effective offensively. Again, the quarterback is good. You've got one of the elite wide receivers in the game of football. You've got a top-level offensive line, although with two rookies that are going to be hitting that offensive line. But I think you've also got some question marks on this offense, guys, and anybody can take it. But obviously the running back position is a question mark. They're trotting Ezekiel Elliott out there to kick this game off. The wide receivers behind CeeDee Lamb, again, you got Brandon Cooks, and he's a guy that plays football. But it's not the most deep wide receiver room on the planet. The tight end is okay. So there are some question marks on this Dallas Cowboys offense. Anybody can take it. We can all kind of just talk about this, but how should the Cleveland Browns attack this Cowboys offense to limit them from what they were able to do last year, essentially?
Okay, I'll do it. Look, first things first, CeeDee Lamb's the whole thing. And we don't know how many reps he's going to be able to give, given his questions with conditioning and the holdout and everything. I mean, this is typical Cowboys. Present a tough front, completely bend over at the last minute. You could have gotten these contracts done at the all offseason, had them the whole time, and this happens every time with them. But having said that, if CeeDee Lamb's going to be moved all over the formation, personally, my preference would be to have Martin Emerson just follow him around the entire way and press him off the line of scrimmage and then have somebody else behind watching. But you have to have an answer for when he goes in motion because they're going to do that quite a bit. The other part about that is Dak Prescott is a guy who really likes to work to his right. I will be curious to see how often they put Myles Garrett on that side. But when he's on the left, against the rookie, what else are they going to do? Is it going to be JOK blitzing off that side occasionally? Is it going to be just a widened out attack? Are they going to send somebody off the slot to bring extra pressure? But the Cowboys, a lot of their stuff is geared toward boot and play action, working to that side, getting Dak on the move. How do they handle those two things? But if you can do that and you control the line of scrimmage, the Cowboys are going to be in for a very long day because they've got 2 rookies starting. Not only, I mean, obviously the focus is on Tyler Guyton going against Myles Garrett, but they've also got to deal with Cooper Beebe, who's a rookie center, who's never played center in a game before, ever. He's been a guard and a tackle, and granted, they've liked him in preseason, but it's different. First game in the dog pound, snap count, loud noises, all these things going on. Is he going to be able to handle these things? The rest of their line, very good, but Terrence Steele, their right tackle, is in a similar situation as all 3 Browns tackles. Coming off an injury-riddled year, how is he going to hold up? They think very highly of him, but is he going to be ready to go week 1? So there are a lot of places where the Browns have great advantages. Jake Ferguson is a good tight end. I don't think he can beat Grant Delpit one-on-one, but those are the matchups that you're going to be looking at that the Browns can sort of create numbers advantages. But to me, the perfect scenario is to have Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome against their second and third receiver, and Martin Emerson with help, just pressing CeeDee Lamb off the line every time, just making his day miserable.
Yeah, I agree. Emerson, I think, is the ideal matchup. You know, me and Casey talked about this, but traditionally the Browns have not traveled with receivers very often, right? I don't think we've seen that. I know Joe Woods didn't do it at all, of course, but I don't remember last year if we saw Emerson or Ward. I don't think they traveled with guys very often. Now, CeeDee Lamb is a different beast.
Half the time under Woods, they didn't travel with the receivers down the field.
Right.
They didn't even go with the receivers at all.
Terrific point. Well said. But yeah, no. So I don't, I think I'm okay with, if they want to stay on one side or the other. My concern is when, you're going to get Lamb 50% or more out of the slot. So that's the matchup I worry about is him and Newsome, right? So if he's on Emerson's side, if they can kind of work some kind of switch where you slide Emerson in to cover him and kick Newsome out when he's on the same side. And when they're in 11 personnel, I think that would be beneficial. But to Pete's point, if they are confident in sending Emerson everywhere and they're ready for that, I'm all for it because that's the matchup you want. I think you proved that against Justin Jefferson in practice, joint practices. So, just physical. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is a violent physical receiver, right? And Emerson is the guy that's best equipped to handle that. So that's the matchup to watch. I do think Ferguson is a good tight end, and I think he can beat you if you're not careful. But once again, like Pete said, Delpit is kind of the new version of the tight end eraser. So you want him to do that and play that role in this game. That would be ideal. And obviously, you want Dak under duress all day. So forcing 3rd and longs is the best way to stay in advantage here or as far as slowing them down. I'm not so much concerned about their run game. I do think it'll be Rico Dowdell more than anybody else in that backfield. All the talk about Zeke and Cook, I think it'll be Dowdell that gets most of the carries. He seems to have more, a little bit more explosion in his game than the other two.
Yeah, I think Dowdell will get the most totes for the Cowboys, but I think Zeke will play a large role just because he can block. And I think that'll be a supplemental way that they try to slow down Garrett. But yeah, you guys touched on it. The matchup for me is Delpit on Ferguson. Just Delpit in general, finding a way to get Delpit closer to line of scrimmage, let him mug Ferguson. If Ferguson stays in the blocks, send Delpit. He's excellent as a blitzer. So I think that is a way they can be physical and kind of speed up the process for Dak. And it's about playing. They're going to play a quick game, just the same as the Browns are. So whoever's the most fundamentally sound in the secondary and can keep guys short of the sticks, I think that's going to be the name of the game. Big day for Emerson. I'm really hoping we get to see Juan Thornhill. See him healthy and see what he can do. See if he can display his range and be a true difference maker that we were hoping we'd see last year. We really didn't get to. So I'm looking forward to seeing that today.
I think something that I'm really kind of focused on is the other pass rushers, Zadarius Smith and Ogbo Okoronkwo on the other side. Make it to where they can't pay a ton of extra attention to Miles. Yeah, they're going to do some double teams and some chips and a lot of things that the Browns are going to try to do to Micah Parsons. But like getting those other pass rushers, what was so special about that was that Myles Garrett was able to get some very favorable reps because you couldn't just pay attention to him. It's not just him and a bunch of scrubs anymore. So like Pete said, talking about the injury with Terrence Steele on the right side, if that guy can be disruptive on that other side and make them second guess all the attention they pay to Myles, and then he gets some favorable matchups, especially in the second half, I think that goes a long way into shutting this offense down.
You got it. Oh, go ahead, Jack. I see you starting. Go ahead, Jack.
I'd say for me, the key thing is Watson and the offense delivering, because the minute, even just a 7-point lead, they're going to feel, hey, we need to just force this Prescott to Lamb more. And anywhere the game goes that direction, that's going to be important. If they suddenly take a lead, it opens up that, hey, we're willing to take a bit more risk. We'll throw a bit more to Ferguson. So offense is very much the best defense, because if this defensive unit know they just need to shut down Lamb and get pass rushers at Prescott, it should be brutal. And this feels weird because 2 years ago, it was an offense I was hyping up. I was buying their stock. And it's just that losing many, many players there. They belong in the Bengals camp of poverty franchises. They just don't like spending the owner's money. And that causes problems because they've given this deal, which is ironically $231 million guaranteed. So we don't hear that about a certain quarterback anymore. But it's one where they're not spending the amount of money they could. If they still had Amari Cooper out there with Lamb, I'm sat here and I'm worried. I don't feel the same sort of fear.
Yeah, listen, all the way back to Pete's initial point when we were talking about the Cowboys offensive line, the thing that I just keep seeing in my head is their new starting center, who had some great videos this offseason, by the way, because when they drafted BB, they told him they were going to start him at center, and he's never played there before. So he put up videos of him snapping to his mom in the yard. Excellent content for the internet. Good stuff. Makes you root for the kid, except for today. You just know, and this is what maybe this is the thing I'm most excited for, guys. You know the Cowboys are going to get into some obvious passing downs, and you know Myles Garrett's going to look that dude right in the face, right over his nose, looking him right in the face, going, all right, new center, we're going to bring Myles Garrett in on you. We're going to put some pass rushers out there and see what you got. I'm very excited for the movement again. And again, defensively, we had a question earlier. Let me see if I can get back to it about how efficient the Browns defense was on third down, first down, allowing first downs. Here's the question. Gregory asks, do you think we can maintain the same amount of first downs allowed as last year? Remember, the Browns were spectacular, best in the league and almost historically good at just not allowing the other team to get first downs, getting off the field on third down, 3 and outs. Jack's over here shaking his head, but is there something to be said about maybe this defense continues to get better under another year of Jim Schwartz?
They'll be amazing, but I would never set the bar at can they repeat freak numbers, because regress to the mean. You may as well print it on a t-shirt and call it one of my favorite mottos. Naturally, you're going to see a slight level of regression. They're still going to be phenomenal. The talent's still there. So they're going to be up there with the best, and it's going to be a joy to watch. But let's not set the bar at they're going to do another freakishly incredible season.
All right, boys, let's go to the other side of the field. And I think the area where, again, we've talked already about the offensive line. We know James Hudson's going to be out there. We know DeJuan Jones is going to be out there. Obviously, we know Nick Chubb's out for the first few weeks, so we're going to see a lot of Jerome Ford and Deontay Foreman. But this is a Browns offense that they just put a ton of work into. And we're talking about Deshaun Watson and David Njoku. And you got the 3 receivers now in Cooper and Moore and Jerry Jeudy. And this is a Dallas defense that, again, is good, especially when it comes to getting to the quarterback. Now, we are going to get a gift from Dallas to start this game, in that maybe their highest scorer from last year, Deron Bland, is not playing in this game, which is super helpful. But we talked a little bit about getting the ball out of Deshaun's hands quickly and all that. But how do you maintain explosiveness, boys? Because I think that's a thing you want to see with this group. It's not just can they dink and dunk their way down the field and try to stay out of Micah Parsons' arms, but can you create some explosive plays? Can you get the Cowboys on their heels? And you're not going to do that by just dinking and dunking. So Go around the horn. Casey, if you want to start, how do you approach being not just efficient but explosive offensively against this Cowboys defense?
Find Kalen Carson early and often. He's a rookie 5th round cornerback starting opposite Diggs. Get matchups, figure out how to move your receivers over. Try to get Cooper there as much as you can. Judy, really try to expose him. Make him prove he's an NFL cornerback. I know they're thrilled with his progress during training camp, but this is live bullets. So that is where I'm exposing. I'm going for the throat and make him prove he's up to snuff, because you have receivers that can do damage in the vertical game, and just send them right at Kalen Carson and test him. You know, I don't even like they're kind of high on their slot corner, Jordan Lewis. I'm not. I've watched enough tape. I'm trying to expose him as well. If you can match Judy up on him, and I think that those are the 2 guys you got to attack. Now Diggs is coming back from an injury. He's been out since game 2 of last year, so he's not above testing as well. But I've seen him do it in the NFL. I've seen him have 11 picks. I'm going after the rookie. That's where my bullseye is.
He is to your point about Diggs, is he is coming off injury, and he does gamble a ton, right? Like, he gambles a lot, and you know that kind of plays right into Amari Cooper's hands. He loves those take the bait or jump routes, very aggressive type corners, double moves, things like that can create some explosives down the field for sure. Obviously, David Njoku should be a big part of this game plan. And listen, the Cowboys have had a really hard time stopping the run in the past few years. Now they've changed their defense. They're going to play with more linebackers, less, big safety types to try to slow the run. But the Browns need to establish a run game today somehow. So that will be a big part of their offense. And then off of that run game is where you're going to get the big plays, the play action, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, Brad, I think that the run game does play a massive part. I mean, I've listened to some other Cowboys podcasts and things, and that's kind of, they say, well, the Cowboys run defense should be better, but then everyone says, I'll believe it when I see it. That's kind of the feeling I get from listening to people that cover the Cowboys, that's the area you could possibly exploit. And we know that it was very feast or famine with Jerome Ford last year, but like, you've got a healthy offensive line in front of you. He's got a little bit more time, I think a little bit better of a scheme running wise for what he can do in the shotgun and kind of as a receiver. But I think him overall, Jerome Ford carrying the ball and also doing some things out of the backfield as a pass catcher. And if that can slow some of that rush down and kind of take some weight off of Watson's shoulders, I think it goes a long way in this game.
If you can, obviously Kalen Carson becomes an opportunity, but if the Cowboys are determined to keep their linebackers on the field, exploit it, force them to cover more ground, spread them out. Jerome Ford is a pass catcher out of the backfield, or what we saw from Deontay Foreman in the preseason out of the backfield. Those are opportunities, but particularly David Njoku. And if you're going to play a guy like Jerry Jeudy in the slot, that becomes another opportunity to sort of find him on those sort of drag and over routes to try to get him in space, try to take advantage of those things and force the Cowboys to cover a whole lot of ground. They like their linebackers, but, they shouldn't be able to keep up with the amount of receivers the Browns have. And even if the Cowboys get all the matchups they want, they've still got to account for all these weapons. And a guy like Cedric Tillman could have opportunities to make plays just because they run out of guys. So the Browns have an advantage in terms of their weaponry. It's just a matter of being able to protect long enough to do it and for Watson to diagnose and deliver the football. If he can do that, the Browns should be able to at least sustain drives, and they may find some big opportunities just by getting the ball out and letting his guys make plays. The screen game becomes another great opportunity. One, slow down the rush, and then two, hopefully they can get out in front and do those type of things that are going to help them. And particularly when you're down an offensive lineman, you can see if that helps you sort of mess with the tempo of what the defense is trying to do and just cause chaos in that regard.
Again, you're tuned into the OBR pregame show. We are about a half hour away from the opening kickoff at I almost called it Cleveland Browns Stadium. What an idiot I am. It's Huntington Bank Field. We are about a half hour away from kickoff at Huntington Bank Field. It's sometime. It's like 4 a.m. over in the UK or something like that. My math is bad. But the season is about to get ready. Real quickly, after the game, around 7:30 or kind of right when the game ends, we're going to be back with the OBR post-game show to wrap everything up. Hopefully talking about a Browns victory. But get tuned in. Make sure you're following everything OBR. Hit like, hit subscribe, do all that on wherever you're watching us right now. And go over to the OBR.com and join us as we talk about the game in our game thread as well. Make sure you focus up and get tuned in to the OBR. Make sure you get locked in, as Brad Ward would say. Make sure you lock in for Brown season here on the OBR. All right, guys, send it around. And just, I think one of the things that's always interesting, especially early in the season, an early game, I think you even saw it in some of the games that have happened so far today. Some of the teams that we thought were going to come out and be the favorites in their games started off pretty slow. There were some real surprising scores in first halves of games today. And then those scores started to get back to what you thought they would be. Although I will say it's beautiful that the Patriots went to Cincinnati and beat the Bengals. The Steelers, I think Kirk Cousins thought he played for the Steelers today. He just kept throwing the ball to the Steelers. That was great. But talk about some things you're going to be really keyed in on early, where it's going to sway your opinion on how this game is going. Things that if you see it early, you're going to go, oh, I love the way this is going, or man, I really hate the direction this game is going.
I'm going to start with one of the key things I want to keep an eye on is who's the running back out there more, because I would personally rather see Foreman out there a lot more than I'd rather see Ford. I'm bored of 2 yards at a time, and that's I've not been convinced with him over the 2 seasons we've seen so far. So I'm keen to see some Foreman out there. He's not going to run any length, but he should get near a 4 on a more consistent basis. And one across the whole game I'm keeping an eye on is wide receiver 3. Are they as committed to more as we think they might be? We've seen all the hype from Tillman and heard about it all in preseason. Do we see a bit more of him out there? Because that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow all the way up until the trade deadline. If Moore's not getting the opportunity, he probably wants out.
Well, Jack stole mine. I was first down efficiency in the running game. For me, it's about staying up with the sticks. And if Ford is not getting you, 3.5, 4 yards, you got to pull him. How quick is Deuce Staley's trigger before he gets Foreman on the field? So that's what I'm keying in on. You got to stay up with the sticks. If you get in obvious passing downs with this defense, with the troubles you're having at left tackle, it could get ugly. So stay up with the sticks. And if Ford's not getting it done, let's see Deonta Foreman.
I think that we've talked so much about Jerry Jeudy fitting in this offense and what Jerry Jeudy can do after the catch. And if you're putting him in the slot and he's getting some of those chances to go in the middle of the field where those linebackers and they're a little bit weaker, and he's able to create after the catch, because they're going to use a lot of that quick game early to try to mitigate some of the issues they have on the left side of the line. And Micah Parsons. So if they could get the ball into Jerry Jeudy and even David Njoku's hands with the opportunity to create after the catch early, I think that can lead to a pretty good day.
I'm going to be watching for listen, it's week 1. Week 1 gets sloppy. It's weird. So, there's nothing that's going to happen, in the first few minutes of the game that it's going to alarm me for the rest of the game. Do you know what I mean? I think they can make adjustments. It's week 1. You're feeling things out. But the thing I'm going to be kind of watching is, Watson's body language, his command getting in and out of the huddle. Does he look like he's confident and in control of the offense, even if they're not getting first downs and it's kind of a slog early? Still, does he look like he's in command and all of those things? So I think that will be kind of because it's like I said, it's week 1. It's very plausible that it is kind of a mess early, as we saw in a lot of games today. But doesn't have to be. I'm just saying it could be. So adjustments will be kind of the name of the game here, I think, for me. But his body language, I think, will be a key thing I'm watching.
I want to see what Bitonio and Teller and Posick, I guess, do against Jordan Phillips, Linval Joseph, and whatever other gigantic human being that's 30-something years old, they drag onto the field because the Cowboys are scrambling for answers at the end. They traded for Phillips, who was bad for Buffalo last year at the deadline. They signed Linval Joseph, who's practically 36 and was terrible last year. Osa Odigizua is a terrific football player, but if the Browns can get on him, he's 280 pounds. It's not going to go. I don't think it's going to go well for him. So if they can establish that early, it almost doesn't matter who's running the ball. But it does go to Jack's point that if you can do that, then you can just keep handing it to Foreman and just chugging it along, which is going to take pressure off the entire thing offensively. But the Browns are counting on Bitonio to obviously had a miserable health year last year, was injured almost from the rip, had surgery, was never right other than pass protection. Can he get back to being Joel Bitonio in the run game? Can Wyatt Teller be the franchise guard that this offense is sort of designed for him to be? If they can do those things, it's going to make everything a whole lot easier because Micah Parsons is a phenomenal football player, but he's not 270 pounds. So if you can push those guys off the line of scrimmage, you can hand the ball off, set up some play action, do those type of things. It's going to make everything a little bit easier.
Yeah, we got another final comes in. The Pittsburgh Steelers kicked a whole bunch of field goals today and then won a football game because the Falcons didn't block TJ Watt. By the way, was there any more TJ Watt play you've ever seen in your whole life than when the Falcons botched a snap and it just landed right in front of him? Like fumble recovery, TJ Watt. All he did was pick the ball up. So far, the AFC North, 2 losses, a win, and we're going to hopefully add another win to that column today against the Dallas Cowboys. Again, we are just about 25 minutes away from kickoff, America's Game of the Week on Fox. But Browns, Cowboys, we got some people down there. Again, check in with Fred Greetham as he's down there. He'll give you updates. Let's stick with the offense for a minute because it kind of goes to the same thing, but you're really looking for things early on that you can notify and identify as ways this team is going to operate. And I think we haven't talked about yet, at least to this point, is not a new offense because Kevin Stefanski's still your head man on offense, but Ken Dorsey, now your offensive coordinator. Ken Dorsey, pretty similar from everything we've heard, pretty similar as far as the way he wants a game to go as what we've seen with Kevin Stefanski. But what kind of things are we looking for early for this Browns offense when it comes to just the play calling and maybe any little tweaks from years past when it's been Alex Van Pelt and Kevin Stefanski? What are the little tweaks we're looking for? What should fans be looking for in this game to identify some differences in how this offense is going to operate?
I think the biggest thing is just easy completions for Deshaun Watson. That has been an issue for the Browns in the past. Kevin Stefanski does a great job in a lot of things, but they wanted to that gives them an opportunity to put Deshaun Watson in an early position to succeed, get the ball to guys in space. That's where Ken Dorsey can sort of put his stamp on this team. I think that's where the Browns needed the most evolution, is just creating easy opportunities for Deshaun Watson to be successful early, let his weapons go, let him get in the flow of it, try to avoid 3 and outs, or worse, play hero ball and force bad balls that are potentially turnover worthy.
I'll be watching for one thing you should be watching for, I think, is more motion. Right, I think you want to look at more motion when they're in shotgun. Can they, to Pete's point, can they create some easy stuff out of the RPO stuff they're going to do? And all this talk about choice routes, like, we're not really going to know unless they miss on a choice route, right? Like, they just throw it to the other team because they weren't on the same page. But some of that, the short motion and taking a snap while wide receivers moving and getting quick, easy stuff is kind of what this offense is designed to do. So if you see some of that stuff where they're taking advantage of leverage and things like that at the line of scrimmage, is, I think, kind of what they want to do and probably want to do early here to create some quick answers for Watson.
How often is Deshaun Watson under center? How often do they run traditional play action and he turns his back to the defense? I expect to see a ton of more shotgun, but formationally, I want to see how different it looks. Like, I want to see getting him comfortable for me is everything. And I never felt like he was comfortable running that traditional play action game. So we know that Dorsey was brought here to kind of revamp the shotgun offense. So that's what I want to see. And I know that if things get bogged down, how long does it take them before they go back to that traditional play action system?
Don't you think they'll have some of both, though?
I think you'll see some, but they used to lean on it very heavily. And during the preseason, we've seen a lot more than I thought we would. So, but none of that was with Watson. So how different does that look with Watson in?
I just really want to see him embrace the passing aspect. I'm bored of establishing the 2nd and 8 after a just pitiful run. It's gone on for a few years, and I know that's part of Stefanski's. It likes a bit of running first. I'm definitely committed to a passing first, and I'm hopeful that that's going to change this year, but we'll see.
Jack chucking daggers at Cleveland from across the pond where he knows there's no repercussions. No repercussions for Jack over there in London.
I think everybody's kind of touched on it, but just Watson needs to look comfortable. Like in that operation, I just want to see a situation where he just looks like, okay, I know what my reads are. I know where I should be going. I feel like I have control over this or a handle over this offense. And like, I don't know how much different it'll look right away. Maybe more shotgun, more motion, those kind of things. But I'm really hoping he looks more comfortable than the last couple of years, because that's been the biggest issue for me.
All right, boys, I'm going to send us around one more time. I'm going to send us around 2 more times, but one more question here, and then we're going to do our score predictions for today's game before we get out of here. We'll let everybody get to the bathroom, grab yourself your favorite beverage, get locked in for Browns game at 4:25. But guys, who's your let's say the Browns come away. Let's say the Browns come away with this victory here today. Who's the most important person for the Cleveland Browns in that win if they do get the win against the Dallas Cowboys?
Outside of Deshaun Watson?
You're allowed to say Deshaun Watson.
I'll say Deshaun. Yeah, I mean, I think it is. It has to be. Now, it doesn't have to be in a way where he's spectacular either. So I just mean it in that he can't make the big mistake, and he can't, lose the game, right? Like, I'm not asking him to go out and win the game in week 1, because I think the defense can win this game for you, but don't lose the game and throw the ball away when you have to. Don't make the big turnover in your own end. Don't give the Dallas offense short field. So, stuff like that can lose you the game, but I'm not asking him to win the game. Just be comfortable and manage the game in a way that allows your defense to get you the win.
I'll go with David Njoku. I think he's going to have a ton on his plate today and helping with pass protection. But we talked about, finding easy answers. That's the guy for me. You can get the ball to him very easily. He can do a ton of damage after the catch. And for me, he needs to be a focal point of this offense. And it's something that we never seen take off when Watson was on the field last year. So I want to see a concerted effort to get the ball in Njoku's hands.
You knew I was going to say that, didn't you?
Yeah, of course I did.
Yeah.
You guys team up. It's okay. You guys can both say the same thing.
I'll pivot to a point I made earlier. Zadarius Smith. If he's probably going to get some favorable matchups on that right side, but then paying attention to Myles Garrett, if he can get home for a sack, couple sacks, whatever, I think that could go a long way in it not being Myles Garrett and it putting more pressure from all over the place on Dak Prescott and helping out the defensive backs by quick pressure or quick throws, whatever it may be. But if Zadarius can have a really good game, I think that could go a long way.
I'm going to say Jerry Jeudy here. Why I think, hey, I want to get to the end of the game and not be talking about Deshaun Watson. That would be a pleasant change where we're like, hey, he's fine. It doesn't need to be light the world up, as Brad said. Just be like, he's fine, he's healthy, he's doing his job. Even if it's like Drew Brees-esque, if he's just taking checkdowns and stuff, okay. Just roll on to next week and it'll come together. And Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, those guys haven't always started the hottest to begin the season. But Jerry Jeudy is in a great position where he's the third receiving option. You've got Cooper, you've got Njoku. He's number 3. And that should be something that makes Deshaun Watson and then the play callers feel a lot more comfortable that that's your third out. That's a point where you should really be able to exploit teams, because not many teams can cover 3 good guys. If everyone's go and someone else picks up, we're suddenly talking about 4 later in the season. That's an exciting spot to be in.
Come on, Myles Garrett. If the way he's obviously played last year, he's at the peak of his powers. He's going against a rookie potentially a lot of this game. He had 2 sacks against Dak Prescott the last time these guys got together, including a sack fumble. If he can do that again, short field for the Browns, that could give them a huge opportunity in a game where, I mean, I'll probably be dead wrong, but I feel like points are going to come at a premium. So he's the guy that can sort of take points off the board from the Cowboys and give them to the Browns. It's impossible for me to bet against it, especially the further we've gotten away from last season. I feel like he should have been the MVP conversation, because everybody in the national media thinks nobody else on this team can play at all. So that would say to me that Myles Garrett was the most valuable player by virtue of the fact he was as good as he was.
Based on Pete's comment there, bet the over, guys. Bet the over.
There you go.
No, we don't hand out betting advice, and you cannot come back at us and say that. I will say 2 guys that I would love to throw into this mix of guys that I think are going to be pretty important. You can maybe add a third, but I'm going to put JOK and I'm going to put Jordan Hicks, and I'm going to put to an extent Grant Delpit, because we're sitting there talking about how the Cowboys, you got to be careful. Brandon Cooks is not like an elite receiver, and not maybe what he used to be, but he's still a guy that can get you down the field. He's still fast. CeeDee Lamb, obviously elite. You got to watch those deep passes. But if what we're talking about is true, and they're going to be really focused, getting the ball out of Dak Prescott's hands and trying to avoid the pass rush for the Browns, guys like JOK and Jordan Hicks and Grant Delpit stepping up in that short to intermediate range, being sure tacklers and breaking up passes could be really, really big. Those 3 guys could come up huge in this game as far as not allowing the Cowboys to have those easy looks that they're going to try to get to try to stay out of the big arms of Myles Garrett. So I just want to throw those guys in there as well. All right, boys, it's come down to it. The Cleveland Browns, the Dallas Cowboys, the Browns 24-10 at home since 2020. The Browns 8-1 at home last year. The Cowboys 17-17 on the road in that same time frame. Hold on, I got a child coming in. Hold on, we're yelling. We're all screaming. We're ready for the Browns. Quiet. So, boys, I'm going to quiet up over here, and I'm going to send it around the horn one more time. Final score predictions. Brad Ward, start it and bring it all the way around. What do you think is going to happen down at Huntington Bank Field today?
Brad, you're muted.
You are muted. I should have been muted. You're the one that's muted.
I picked 20-13. Thank you, guys. I apologize. Although I would say that a lot of the games today seemed a little more high scoring than I expected. Some of them, it's a chance for the Browns to kind of shut up their doubters, right? Like, this is a statement game in week 1. How often do you get that opportunity? All eyes of the nation on this game. Tom Brady calling the game. So if they really want to go out and make a statement, they have an opportunity to do it today. So I took 20-13 Browns.
Brad just stole my score from the predictions. I'll up it a little bit. I think 24-13. These are 2 teams that didn't really play their offensive starters in the preseason. So I think it's real slow early going, a defensive battle, some field goals back and forth. But I think in the second half, it opens up a little bit, and the Browns just make those 1 or 2 more plays that matter in the end.
I'll go Browns 23-17. But I think it could come down to a big turnover in the fourth quarter to set them up for an easy score or an add-one score to kind of try to seal it away.
I'm going bold. Browns 30, Cowboys 17. Let's have them.
I think I put 20-14. The biggest thing is the Browns are at home. They were dominant at home last year. Rookie offensive lineman in what is going to be a very loud stadium. I think the Browns defense matches up super well against what the Cowboys are doing offensively, in addition to the problems they have, questions surrounding CeeDee Lamb and stuff. And I think the Browns will be able to muddle enough together offensively to get it done and sort of get it going.
Oh, that brings us around the horn. I've said since the beginning, I said 27-17 Browns. I think the Browns are getting them by 10. at home. The dog pound's going to be crazy. We got Donovan Mitchell. Did you see the video? Donovan Mitchell's out there keg bowling. He's not just with Myles Garrett in the Muni. He stayed and he's bowling kegs at the Muni lot. It is going to be a heck of a start for the Cleveland Browns. Huntington Bank Field. We're getting off on a good start with the new name. But boys, Browns football is back. Browns fans, Browns football is back. And there's no better place in all of Cleveland to get your Browns football coverage and talk than right here at the OBR. Get over to the OBR.com and subscribe. Make sure you're tuned into the OBR streaming network. And I am absolutely 1,000% ready to go. I'm locked in. I hope you are too. Boys, thank you for jumping on. Brad, Casey, Jake, Jacob, Jack, and Pete. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you go follow these guys on Twitter, which you probably already are. And make sure you jump in with us after the game for the OBR post-game show. That's going to wrap it up for now. Go to the bathroom, go get yourself a drink, and get locked in because it's Cleveland Browns football time, and we are so excited for it. We will see you guys after the game. Until then, cheers, and here we go, Brownies. Here we go.
Did he just say bathroom? I don't know.